Imagine stepping outside and instantly feeling like you've climbed to the top of Mount Everest, only worse. The air around you is razor thin, cold, and almost non existent. Your lungs expand desperately, but the oxygen simply isn't there. Birds drop from the sky, planes lose lift. Even sound itself becomes faint and ghostly, as if the world has been placed inside a vacuum chamber.
An important spark.
The Earth's atmosphere, normally a massive 10,000-kilometer deep blanket that protects us, feeds us, warms us, and shields us, has suddenly collapsed to just 1% of its normal thickness. Not 50%,
Join not 10%.
just 1%. A world where the sky fades from blue to pitch black in broad daylight. A world where cosmic radiation hits the ground unfiltered. A world where every breath becomes a battle for survival. Standing on this new Earth feels like standing on Mars, but with the terrifying twist that everything familiar is still here: the cities, the oceans, the forests, all suffocating under an atmosphere so thin it can't even carry the smell of smoke, let alone enough oxygen to keep life thriving. Wind dies, clouds vanish, liquid water begins to boil at room temperature. Sunlight becomes harsh and unsoftened, like a surgical laser aimed at the planet. Temperature swings become extreme searing heat at noon, freezing cold by sunset. Humanity has never faced conditions this hostile, not in history, not in imagination, until now. Welcome to the Earth with an atmosphere only 1% as thick as the one you're breathing right now. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment your question below. Before we dive into the chaos, let's clearly understand what this hypothetical scenario means. Earth's atmosphere isn't just air. It's a complex, multi-layered shield made of gases that keep temperatures stable, protect us from deadly radiation, and allow life to exist at all. It provides pressure so water can stay liquid, carries sound, fuels weather, and makes breathing possible for every living creature. Now imagine compressing all of that. Every molecule, every protective layer, every weather system, down to only 1% of its original thickness. This isn't simply walking up a mountain. This is equivalent to stepping into a near vacuum environment, similar to the surfaces of Mars or the Moon, but with a faint trace of Earth's air still clinging to the surface. Why is this scenario scientifically fascinating? Because the atmosphere is responsible for nearly everything we take for granted: the way sunlight scatters into blue skies, the way oceans stay liquid, the way our bodies function. Shrinking it reveals how fragile our planet actually is. In this video, we'll explore what happens to pressure, temperature, water, ecosystems, radiation, and the human body itself. We'll break down the physics behind boiling oceans, the chemistry behind runaway cooling, and the astronomical dangers that strike a planet with almost no air. From collapsing weather systems to the disappearance of sound, from the death of the ozone layer to the total transformation of Earth itself, we're about to enter a world that no living thing has ever experienced. The very first and most immediate consequence of shrinking Earth's atmosphere to 1% of its original thickness is the catastrophic collapse of air pressure. At sea level today, the atmospheric pressure is about 101 kPa, enough to keep our blood liquid, water stable, weather active, and oxygen available for life. But with only 1% of that atmosphere left, the pressure drops to around 1 kPa level, similar to the surface of Mars. This is where the true nightmare begins. At this pressure, liquid water cannot stay liquid. It instantly begins to boil at room temperature, even at 20 naked to see. Lakes, rivers, even shallow parts of the ocean start to bubble violently. It's not heat, it's physics. With almost no external pressure pushing down on the water, the molecules escape freely into vapor. Earth enters a frenzy of uncontrolled evaporation. Your own bodily fluids would begin to vaporize as well, but not in a Hollywood explosive way. Instead, moisture on your tongue, eyes, and skin would start evaporating rapidly, creating a burning dryness you cannot escape. Your blood wouldn't boil thanks to the skin and internal pressure, but oxygen inside your lungs would immediately stop transferring into your bloodstream. You'd lose consciousness in 15 to 20 seconds. You can't breathe because there's nothing substantial to breathe. With pressure almost gone, sound becomes faint and hollow. A shout from a friend standing a few meters away would sound like a whisper underwater. Sound waves simply cannot travel effectively through such thin air. Weather systems collapse. High and low pressure zones responsible for storms, rain, and wind can't form. The sky becomes eerily still. No clouds, no wind, no storms. Just an empty, silent atmosphere hanging above a rapidly drying world. And then there's the temperature effect. Without sufficient air to retain heat, daytime becomes extremely hot, and nighttime becomes brutally cold. Earth loses its thermal blanket, leaving the surface exposed to wild temperature swings. All of this unfolds within minutes to hours of the atmospheric collapse. With the atmosphere reduced to just 1% of its original thickness, the world undergoes a transformation so dramatic that the sky itself seems to vanish. Daylight no longer produces the familiar blue overhead. Instead, the sky turns pitch black even at noon. The atmosphere is simply too thin to scatter sunlight. The sun becomes a sharp, blinding point in a dark sky, casting harsh, unforgiving shadows across the ground. Stars become visible during the day, creating an eerie blend of daylight brightness and cosmic darkness. The danger grows far beyond visual strangeness. Without a thick layer of air above us, ultraviolet radiation from the sun slams directly into the ground. The ozone layer, almost entirely gone in this scenario, can no longer filter out the most dangerous UVC rays. Human skin burns within minutes. Eyes become damaged with even brief exposure. DNA in plants, animals, and microbes fractures rapidly. Life on land is wiped out long before it can even attempt to adapt. The sun's heat also behaves differently. With almost no atmosphere to absorb or scatter sunlight, it hits the ground with brutal intensity. Surfaces heat up rapidly, metal becomes too hot to touch, soil dries and cracks, and buildings bake under the unfiltered solar glare. But when the sun sets, the opposite occurs. The ground loses heat instantly. Nights become freezing, similar to the lunar surface. Nothing remains warm for long, and frost forms even in regions that were scorching hours earlier. Earth also becomes vulnerable to cosmic radiation and space weather. Without atmospheric shielding, particles from solar flares and deep space reach the surface directly. Electronics malfunction, satellites degrade quickly, communication systems fail unexpectedly. Even the soil becomes slowly irradiated over time. As if that weren't enough, meteors that once burned up high above now strike the ground almost daily. Small fireballs hit with surprising force, no longer slowed by air resistance. Larger objects crash harder, and more frequently, adding random destruction to an already collapsing world. In this new reality, Earth is no longer a sheltered planet. It is a target exposed to the full violence of space. As the weeks pass on an Earth with only 1% of its atmosphere, the planet enters a slow but unstoppable collapse. The environment no longer behaves like the world we once recognized. With evaporation racing ahead and no air pressure to hold moisture down, water becomes the planet's most rapidly disappearing resource. Lakes shrink into muddy basins, then into dry, cracked bowls of sediment. Rivers fade to dusty trenches. Even the mighty oceans begin lowering, centimeter by centimeter, as vapor escapes directly into space. Without an atmosphere to carry weather, the water cycle doesn't just weaken, it dies completely. No clouds form, no rain falls, no storms sweep across continents. Earth becomes a place without sky driven change, frozen in a state of absolute stillness except for the boiling edges of shrinking seas. Life follows quickly. Plants lose internal moisture as low pressure forces water to evaporate from their tissues. Leaves turn crisp and fragile, stems collapse inward. Entire forests fall silent within days. With vegetation gone, animals starve or suffocate. Birds can no longer generate lift in the thin air, collapsing wherever they try to take flight. Even insects, usually the planet's most resilient survivors, can't withstand the radiation and desiccation. The oceans, once considered Earth's final stronghold of life, suffer next. With pressure so low, surface waters absorb radiation more deeply, harming marine organisms at every level of the food chain. Coral reefs dissolve. Fish migrate deeper to escape UV light, only to encounter colder, oxygen poor water. Marine ecosystems fracture, then vanish. Human civilization becomes unrecognizable. Outdoor environments are instantly deadly: no oxygen, overwhelming radiation, violent temperature swings. Survival becomes possible only inside sealed, pressurized habitats that mimic the old atmosphere. Every breath must be manufactured. Every drop of water must be protected from boiling away. Agriculture is confined to pressurized greenhouses. Cities turn into enclosed bubbles of artificial climate, isolated from the dead world outside. Gradually, Earth stops being a home and becomes a hollow shell and exposed, airless planet, where only pockets of human technology cling to life against the vast emptiness that now defines the surface. In the end, an Earth with an atmosphere only 1% as thick as today's transforms almost instantly into an alien world. The moment air pressure collapses, water begins boiling at ordinary temperatures, sound weakens, and breathing becomes impossible. The sky, once blue and full of life, turns black even at noon. The sun shines with sharp, painful intensity, casting harsh shadows as radiation pours down unfiltered. Without the atmosphere's protection, ultraviolet and cosmic rays strike the ground freely. Plants wither within hours. Animals collapse within minutes. Temperature swings become extreme scorching heat under the raw sun and freezing cold when night falls. Weather disappears entirely. No clouds, no storms, no wind, just a silent planet exposed to space. The oceans, which once covered most of Earth's surface, begin to evaporate slowly but relentlessly. Rivers dry out, lakes vanish. Marine ecosystems crumble. Life retreats until even the deepest waters can no longer protect it. Human survival becomes a technological challenge rather than a natural one. The open air is deadly, forcing people to live in sealed, pressurized environments. Everything breathable air, drinkable water, and stable temperature must be artificially maintained. Cities become clusters of isolated bubbles scattered across a barren surface. This scenario shows just how delicate Earth truly is. The atmosphere, though invisible and easy to overlook, is the one thing separating a thriving world from a silent, airless wasteland. Without it, our planet becomes nothing more than a rocky sphere drifting in space. It is a reminder that the thin layer of air around us is not guaranteed, and everything we know depends on it.